A billionaire CEO, a broken bike, and a single dad with nothing left to lose. When her engine died, she never expected him to restart her heart. Stay till the end. This one will melt you. The rain came down like shattered glass against the night sky, slicing through the glow of the city's distant lights. Samantha Vale, CEO of Vale Motors, tightened her grip on the handle of her matte black Ducati Hyperpulse, a bike that cost more than most people's homes. The woman who ruled the global automobile empire wasn't used to slowing down, not in business, not in life. But tonight, as thunder rolled across the empty countryside, even the storm seemed to mock her pace. She was running from something she couldn't name, the board meeting that ended in betrayal, the loneliness that echoed through her penthouse, the haunting memory of her late father's voice saying, "Never let them see you weak." The Ducati's engine began to cough, sputter, and then went silent, a dead roar swallowed by the rain. Samantha cursed under her breath, glancing around the deserted road. Her GPS showed nothing but an endless stretch of black. Her designer boots sank into the muddy shoulder as she wheeled the heavy bike toward the faint glow of a sign ahead. Through the sheets of rain, she could just make out the words flickering in blue neon. Cole's Garage. Inside, the air was warm and smelled of oil, rubber, and old wood, a place where time moved slower, held together by grease-stained hands and stubborn dreams. Ethan Cole, a man in his mid-30s with rugged stubble and quiet eyes, was bent over a half-restored Harley. His little girl, Lily, sat nearby on a stool, drawing on a torn piece of cardboard, humming softly. The door creaked open, and both heads turned as Samantha stepped inside, rain dripping from her leather jacket, her dark hair plastered against her face. For a moment, Ethan just stared. She looked like she'd stepped out of another world, the kind that never touched his. "My bike died a few miles back," she said curtly, trying to sound in control even as her voice trembled slightly from the cold. Ethan stood, wiping his hands on a rag. "Bring it in," he said simply, his tone calm but unreadable. No small talk, no recognition, just the steady assurance of someone who fixed problems for a living. Samantha hesitated, not used to being ordered, but something in his quiet confidence made her obey. When he started inspecting the Ducati, his brow furrowed. "This ain't your average ride," he murmured. "Looks custom," Samantha crossed her arms. "It's a Vale prototype. I designed it." He raised an eyebrow. "You designed it?" he repeated as if testing her truth. "You work for Vale Motors?" She hesitated, rain still trickling from her hair. "Something like that," she said. As Ethan worked under the yellow workshop light, Samantha watched his focus. The way his hands moved with purpose, the way Lily peeked at her shyly from behind a toolbox. For the first time in a long time, Samantha felt out of place and oddly grounded. The storm outside raged on, but inside that humble garage, a spark quietly ignited, between two broken engines and two even more broken hearts. The morning light crept through the dusty windows of Cole's garage, painting streaks of gold across the concrete floor. Samantha Vale sat on a stool near the corner, watching as Ethan Cole moved with steady precision, each motion deliberate, each tool chosen like an artist selecting his brush. He worked silently, the hum of the small fan mixing with the faint crackle of an old radio playing country tunes. Samantha had spent years surrounded by polished glass offices, conference calls, and machines built by robots, but here, everything was different. Every creak, every clang had life. The garage wasn't perfect, but it was real. Ethan didn't talk much. His focus stayed on her Ducati, its sleek carbon body smeared with mud, the engine exposed like a wound. He tightened bolts, adjusted valves, and checked the wiring with calm expertise. Samantha crossed her arms, trying to hide her impatience. "How long is it going to take?" she asked sharply. Without looking up, Ethan replied, "Depends if you want it fixed right, or just fixed fast." His voice was calm, but firm. She frowned. No one talked to her like that. "I could pay you double," she offered. Ethan looked up at her for the first time that morning, his gaze unwavering. "Ma'am, money doesn't make things run smoother. Patience does." Then he returned to his work. For a moment, Samantha was speechless. She was used to people bending for her, assistants, board members, engineers. But this man didn't flinch at her authority. He treated her not like a CEO, but like a stranger with a broken bike. Somehow, that stung and soothed her pride all at once. From behind a counter stacked with toolboxes, a small voice piped up. "Would you like some cocoa?" It was Lily, holding a chipped mug with both hands. Her smile was shy, her eyes curious. Samantha hesitated, then softened. "Thank you," she said, taking the warm cup carefully. Lily beamed and went back to her drawings, occasionally glancing up at Samantha as if she were some movie star who had accidentally wandered into their small world. Hours passed quietly. The sound of tools filled the air like a heartbeat. Samantha began to see something in Ethan that her corporate world lacked: integrity without agenda. When he finally stood up, wiping sweat from his forehead, he said, "You're good to go." I replaced the spark plugs and reset the sensor. "Shouldn't give you trouble now." She looked at him, almost reluctant to leave. "You really know your way around machines," she said, impressed despite herself. He smiled faintly. "I fix what's broken. Been doing it since I was 15. As she prepared to start her bike, Ethan glanced at the custom design on the frame, the engraved V logo of Vale Motors. His brows furrowed. "Wait, Vale Motors? You're that Vale?" he asked, stepping back slightly. Samantha froze. "Yes," she said quietly. "Samantha Vale." The name hung in the air like thunder. Ethan's expression hardened, his voice dropping. "Your company's the one buying out shops like mine." Silence stretched between them. The engine of her bike roared back to life. But for the first time that day, Samantha wished it hadn't. She realized she hadn't just rolled into a small-town garage. She had stepped straight into the heart of a man her empire was about to destroy. The air in the garage felt heavier after Ethan's question. Samantha Vale stood beside her bike, rainwater still dripping from her boots, facing the kind of silence money couldn't fix. Ethan Cole's expression had changed, no longer curious, just guarded. The warmth from before was gone, replaced by the quiet steel of a man who'd already lost too much. "So that's it," he muttered, wiping his hands with the same rag he'd used to fix her bike. "You're the one who owns Vale Motors, the company buying out small garages across the state." Samantha tried to steady her tone. "It's business, not personal." But the words sounded hollow, even to her. Ethan gave a short, bitter laugh. "That's what people always say right before they take someone's livelihood." For the first time in years, Samantha didn't have a comeback. She'd faced journalists, investors, and competitors, but this man's disappointment hit deeper than any boardroom accusation. She wanted to explain that it wasn't her choice, that the acquisitions were part of a larger corporate plan, but the truth was, she'd approved every one of them. Ethan turned away, muttering something under his breath as he checked a carburetor just to avoid looking at her. "You should go," he said flatly. Samantha started her Ducati, but the roar of the engine didn't drown out the guilt clawing inside her. When she glanced toward the window, she saw Lily standing in the corner, watching quietly with her small hands clasped together. Samantha gave her a faint smile, but the girl only tilted her head, sensing the tension. "Bye, Miss Bike Lady," Lily whispered. The innocence in her voice cracked something open inside Samantha, a feeling she hadn't allowed herself in years: regret. She drove off, but her thoughts stayed tangled in that small garage. The smell of oil, the sound of tools, the look in Ethan's eyes when he realized who she was. Back in the city, surrounded by glass walls and chrome desks, her world suddenly felt lifeless. Every reflection of herself in those spotless windows showed power but no peace. When her assistant briefed her on the next acquisition target, her breath caught. Cole's Garage, pending takeover in 30 days. Her pulse quickened. She'd been trying to escape the chaos of her empire, only to crash straight into its consequences. The next day, she drove back. Ethan was surprised but not impressed. "What are you doing here?" he asked coldly. "I came to talk," she said. "About the acquisition," he chuckled dryly. "You mean the one that's going to wipe out my shop?" She met his gaze. "Maybe there's a way to save it." Ethan stepped closer, his eyes hard. "You can't fix this one with a wrench or a smile." But Samantha didn't leave. Something in her, something buried under years of ruthless ambition, refused to walk away. "Then teach me," she said softly. "Show me what I'm destroying." Ethan stared at her, confused but curious. For the first time, the woman who built machines was ready to learn what it meant to have soul. The storm rolled in again like fate repeating itself. Thunder echoing through the hills, rain falling in relentless waves. Samantha Vale stood beneath the flickering light of Cole's garage, her jacket soaked, her heart heavier than the sky above. She hadn't meant to come back, not again, but something about that place, the quiet hum of machines, the smell of oil and metal, and the memory of Ethan's steady voice, had pulled her in. Inside, Ethan Cole worked late, sleeves rolled up, grease streaked across his arms, completely unaware that she was standing in the doorway. For a long moment she watched him, the storm raging behind her, and a different kind of storm twisting inside her chest. When he finally noticed her, his expression hardened. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his tone cold but tired. Samantha stepped forward. "I know, but I couldn't leave things the way they were." He sighed, setting down his wrench. "You can't just show up here every time it rains expecting me to forget who you are." The words hit her like lightning. "I'm not asking you to forget," she whispered. "I'm asking you to understand." A sudden flash of lightning made the power flicker. The garage plunged into semi-darkness, lit only by the occasional crackle of the storm. Samantha moved closer, her voice trembling but sincere. "Ethan, I didn't know your shop was part of the buyout when I first came here. But when I found out, I tried to stop it. I've been fighting my own board. They think small garages like yours are inefficient. They don't see the people behind them." Ethan leaned against the workbench, his eyes shadowed. "And what about you? Did you ever see them? The mechanics, the families, the ones who built those machines with their hands while your company built them with code?" His words were sharp, but beneath them was hurt, not just pride, but pain. Samantha swallowed hard. "I see it now. I see you." Outside, thunder roared again, rattling the old windows. Rainwater dripped from the ceiling into a metal bucket with a hollow rhythm. Lily's old drawings hung on the wall, a little house, a motorcycle, 3 stick figures holding hands. Samantha stared at them quietly. "You lost your wife, didn't you?" she asked softly. Ethan froze, then nodded. 2 years ago. Hit and run. I never found out who did it." His voice cracked just slightly. Samantha's chest tightened. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know sorry doesn't fix anything, but I am." They stood in silence, 2 souls broken in different ways, bound by things neither could change. The storm outside softened, and for the first time, Samantha allowed herself to cry, not as a CEO, but as a woman who'd spent too long pretending she was unbreakable. Ethan hesitated, then reached out, gently brushing away a tear from her cheek. "You can't fix everything, Samantha," he said quietly. "But maybe some things are worth trying." The rain slowed to a whisper. For the first time in years, she felt something real, fragile, human, and terrifyingly alive. The days after the storm felt strangely quiet. The sky cleared, but something heavier hung between Samantha Vale and Ethan Cole, a silence filled with questions neither dared to ask. Samantha spent the next week making calls from her penthouse, fighting her board behind closed doors. Her voice, once sharp with authority, now trembled with conviction. "We can't destroy people's livelihoods for numbers on a screen," she argued during a heated meeting. But the shareholders didn't see what she saw, the pride in Ethan's work, the laughter of his daughter in that oil-stained garage, the soul behind every hand-built engine. They saw profit margins, not people. And when the final decision came, Samantha's name was printed on the acquisition papers. Cole's Garage, officially acquired by Vale Motors. The moment she read it, her heart broke. She rushed to the small town hoping she could explain, hoping he'd understand. But when she arrived, Ethan was already outside, his sleeves rolled, jaw tight, and eyes filled with betrayal. "You said you'd stop this," he growled, tossing the letter onto her Ducati's seat. The Vale Motors logo glared up like a scar. Samantha shook her head. "Ethan, I tried. I fought them, but the board—" "Don't," he snapped, his voice low but fierce. "You don't get to say you tried. You're the CEO. You are them." Samantha's throat tightened. "I risked my position for you. For your garage." He laughed bitterly. "And look how that turned out. My life's work now belongs to the woman who destroyed it." He turned away, but she grabbed his arm. Ethan, please. This isn't what I wanted. He looked at her then, his eyes dark and tired. You're not the one who loses sleep wondering how to pay for your kid's school, Samantha. You don't understand what it means to build something with your bare hands just to have someone like you take it away. The words stung deep. She wanted to scream that he was wrong, that she'd lost pieces of herself long before she ever met him. But no words came. Instead, she reached into her bag and pulled out a small folder. This, she said softly, is your garage. The deed, I bought it back. In your name. Ethan froze, his anger faltering as confusion crossed his face. Why? She smiled sadly. Because some things aren't meant to be owned, Ethan. They're meant to be protected. He didn't speak for a long moment, just stared at her, searching her face for deceit, but finding only truth. You gave up everything for this? He asked quietly. No, she said. I gave up everything that didn't matter. A week later, the news broke. Samantha Vale resigns as CEO of Vale Motors. The media called it career suicide, but Samantha didn't care. She stood outside the newly renamed Vale Customs, watching Ethan teach Lily how to polish a bike tank, her heart lighter than it had been in years. For the first time, the woman of steel had found something stronger than metal, something human, fragile and real. She had found her soul. The morning sun rose gently over the town, its golden light spilling across the freshly painted sign. Vale Customs. The garage that once felt forgotten now pulsed with new life. The smell of paint, leather, and metal mingled with the sound of laughter. Ethan Cole stood outside, wiping his hands on a clean rag, his face calm for the first time in years. Beside him, Samantha Vale leaned against the doorframe, watching Lily run around with a bucket of soapy water, helping clean a shiny, restored bike. The garage that once represented Ethan's survival now symbolized something far greater. Rebirth. Together, they had rebuilt not just machines, but each other. Since resigning from Vale Motors, Samantha had traded her tailored suits for jeans and a leather jacket, her boardroom for a workbench. Gone were the cameras, the flashing lights, the headlines calling her the fallen billionaire. In their place, she found peace in the hum of an engine, the steady rhythm of tools, and the quiet smile Ethan gave her every time their eyes met. The woman who once lived by deadlines now lived by heartbeats, and every one of them brought her closer to something she'd never known before. Home. One afternoon, a customer came in with a vintage Triumph, its chrome dull and body rusted. Samantha ran her hand along the tank, her mind already sketching ideas. We could give it a full rebuild, she said, excitement lighting her voice. Ethan chuckled. Look at you, talking like a real mechanic, she grinned. Guess I had a good teacher. Their eyes met, the kind of look that said everything words couldn't. As weeks passed, word spread fast. The once small-town garage became known as a place where craftsmanship met innovation. People traveled miles just to see the billionaire-turned-mechanic who worked beside a widowed father. And every evening, when the tools were down and the lights dimmed, Ethan, Samantha, and Lily would sit outside, eating dinner on the hood of an old Chevy, watching the sunset. One evening, Samantha brought out her Ducati, the same bike that had first led her to his door. Now, it gleamed brighter than ever, its design subtly modified with a silver emblem on the tank, C and V intertwined like their initials. You ready? She asked, slipping on her helmet. Ethan smiled, putting his arm around her waist as he climbed on behind her. I thought you'd never ask, Lily clapped, waving from the porch. Don't go too fast, she yelled, giggling. The bike roared to life, the sound echoing through the hills, the same sound that once marked loneliness, now symbolizing freedom. As they sped down the open road, wind rushing past, Samantha leaned into Ethan's chest, closing her eyes for a brief second. This wasn't escape anymore. It was belonging. She'd built empires and lost them, but this was everything she'd been searching for, far behind them. The sign of Vale Customs shimmered in the sunlight, a symbol of second chances, love born from collision, and two souls that refused to quit. For the first time, Samantha Vale wasn't chasing success. She was riding toward happiness. If you believe love can rise from the ashes of loss, and that even the coldest hearts can be rebuilt, Hit and subscribe to Drew Daily Stories, where every ending is just the start of something beautiful.